Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a review of Spartacus, War of the Damned, Episode 5, Blood Brothers. Now, this episode I actually thought started off a little bit slow, and I didn't think it was going to amount to much, but oh was I wrong. So, really this episode, the first, I guess, 2/3 of this episode, are really dealing with the rift inside Camp Spartacus, with Crixus, sort of leading sort of half the kind of like Spartacus's men in a kind of like a pro-slaughtering all Romans, whilst the other half really sort of wanting, being loyal to Spartacus. They may not agree with him, but they're loyal to whatever he says, including you've got Agron, Gannicus, Saxa. And they following orders, and they will spare the Romans' lives even though they don't necessarily want to. And it kind of looks like initially that this is going to be a sort of growing rift, and you've got Caesar still sort of exacerbating the situation. Now, one maybe issue I have with this episode really is that, to me, I think it was Caesar, since they all think Caesar's just one of them. But he's only just come into the sort of like the city, and to me, he's been very sort of vocal, and a bit of a know-it-all, and no one's really sort of questioned. Hang on, why are you sort of feel like you have so much of a voice, because he's been there such a short amount of time. It's kind of a minor quibble, to be fair, but I thought maybe the whole Caesar infiltrating the camp might have gone for a bit longer, but it appears that's where this episode is now ended, as I'll come on to in just a bit. But that was mine only got really sort of early on in this episode. It just that Caesar seems to be fairly obviously trying to sort of sow these seeds of discontent with the sort of like different sort of factions of Spartacus's men, and he even sort of tries to sort of like really maybe turn the pirates against them as well. So that, I guess, is the only real gripe I had, and it fools you into thinking it's going to be a fairly a slow episode, and then the last maybe 10 sort of 15 minutes of this episode is a really sort of fantastic battle, and it's one of the few times with Spartacus you actually think, oh my god, this could be it now. This could be the end, or at least we're going to get some major character deaths. So it was a very, very exciting final battle, and basically what happens is that because of the sort of Spartacus is trying to sort of outmaneuver Crassus, and at the same time, obviously, Crassus is trying to outmaneuver Spartacus. Spartacus has the idea essentially of letting the Roman prisoners go and feeding them false information, so they'll get back to Crassus. And he thinks that's going to work, but Crassus has got his own plans sort of going into sort of production, and obviously Spartacus is at this point unaware that you obviously have Caesar still in the midst as well. So basically, Spartacus's group were just about to ready to sort of separate into two halves to try and make an assault on Crassus's men, when it turns out that the pirates have actually been paid off by the Romans, and they've betrayed Spartacus, as we kind of all know they probably would. I mean, from the very first time you saw them, they were characterised as being untrustworthy and kind of dodgy type people. So you kind of knew that this was going to happen at some point, I think. Now, in the meantime, before you kind of get to the final battle, you've also obviously got some scenes in sort of in Camp Crassus. And Tiberius, who's now sort of been exiled to the sort of the followers' camp, is feeling particularly sort of obviously sore about it, as I suppose you would. His sort of men are sort of squabbling, kind of really being treated sort of poorly and things like that. And Crassus is obviously having an affair with one of these slaves, and she's trying to sort of mend fences between Crassus and Tiberius. And she sort of goes to Tiberius and sort of tries to sort of like pack things up with both sides of it, and Tiberius decides that he's going to rape her in sort of really vengeance for what's happened to his potentially gay lover, I think, from in the previous episode in Decimation. But that's really it in regards to the sort of camp crashes. You have a sort of a member of the Senate show up and basically have a pop at Crassus for not really doing anything. But obviously, Crassus is very technically minded, and he's got all this sort of like an ongoing plan rather than just sort of charging in sort of half cocked. Now, as I say, the crux of this episode comes to the end, and it was a fantastic action scene in an episode what I thought was going to be relatively not an action-filled episode at all. But as I said, it was a great scene where all these Romans are sort of hiding on board the pirate ships. At the same time, you've got Caesar's sort of reveals himself and kills the member of, I forget the character's name, but the sort of the Spartacus is sort of man that he's been hanging around with the beard and the axe. He kills him and basically goes to try and sort of unbolt the gates. Now you've got the sort of the main sort of characters, in Spartacus camped in two different places, with Spartacus and sort of Gannicus, and then it ends up with Crixus and Navia at the docks, and then you have the rest of them. So maybe the lesser known ones, Agron, Saxa, and I think Lugo at the gates. And I actually thought this was going to be the time when you might see a couple of character deaths, and you don't actually. But it ends on a very big cliffhanger, where essentially the Romans busting through the gates of the city because Caesar's managed to sort of set the gates on fire and weaken them. So you've basically got 3 or 4 of Spartacus's men sort of really now the whole sort of Roman legion at the gate. So it'll be it's going to be interesting. I think next episode, I've heard episode 6, there will be some character deaths. I've heard one in particular. I won't spoil it here, but I've heard one of the major characters is going to get killed in the next episode, which will be a shame. It's one of my favourites if it's true, but we'll see. It's all a great episode, great build up, and an absolutely fantastic battle scene at the end. Really, really exciting, and I'm absolutely stoked to see what happens in the next episode. I guess the only other major, well, it's a minor problem really, I suppose, apart from the thing with Caesar, the only other minor pick I would say of this is there's one scene towards the end where Crixus jumps off the building, and it is a big building, and he sort of lands and then sort of gets up and hits a Roman, and there's no way that you would be able to make that size jump without sort of at least rolling into it, and he doesn't. He just sort of gets up straight. So I thought, that maybe was I don't know. Spartacus has never been about necessarily realism, but it was maybe stretching it a little bit too thin for my tastes. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode. It's going to be an 8 out of 10 for me. Leave me a comment, and I'll see you next week. See you later.